Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran. Today guys, I wanted to talk to you about a process that a lot of people, including myself, have gone through or will go through during spiritual awakening, during your spiritual journey to discovering yourself. Okay, and that process is the dark night of the soul. It is a term, I believe, historically coined by a Franciscan priest or a Jesuit or something like that. I'm not too sure on the specific sect of Christianity, but essentially, for broad strokes purposes, it was a Christian priest of some kind, or Jesuit or missionary, who coined the term centuries ago in an effort to basically, I guess, label a process of the deconstruction of self, the dark spiritual depression, or a lack of faith and a lack of connection to something that would be considered divine. Okay, so taking away the religious aspects of it and taking away the aspect of man-made God, what we have in a spiritual, more esoteric, universal way is the dark night of the soul being more of a process of which your ego self is essentially deconstructed over time, destroyed, reworked, exposed, and during that process, what happens to the individual is a sort of dark spiritual depression. Okay, now at the worst of the dark night of the soul, we have a sense of boredom, a sense of depression, sadness, but it goes beyond a sort of clinical depression where you don't find joy in life. It's more a soul purging sort of experience. Okay, so going for my own life, guys, dark night of the soul at its worst for me was a lack of motivation to do anything. It was a time in my life where, after becoming awakened, as we say in this sort of labeling, right? What happened after going through that spiritual awakening, the initial stages of it, is that I remember feeling very disillusioned with everything, feeling very depressed, not wanting to do anything. I remember like not wanting to hang out with anybody, not wanting to do anything with any friends. My friends were naturally falling away. Nothing fulfilled me at all. I didn't really even want to do anything. I didn't want to listen to music. I didn't want to. I didn't want to. Oh, I didn't want to go anywhere. I just wanted to stay in bed. I remember what I did is I felt so called to sort of deconstruct my physical life, that what happened was I quit my job that I had at the time, which is okay. It was a shit job. I ended up quitting a lot of friendships, telling a lot of people off, like just telling the truth to people that maybe I didn't necessarily need to. I remember, telling family members off, and really kept trying to really, in a sense, kind of do things differently, just trying anything to sort of not feel the current experience, which was, again, this sort of soul purge. It was like this purge of emotions and crying and deep darkness that seemed to have come from a space that I could never ever predict existed within me. And I remember in my room, I remember throwing away a lot of clothes, throwing away a lot of furniture, getting rid of all this stuff. And at one point, it was just a mattress on my bed. That was it. I mean, a mattress on my bed, mattress on my floor. That was it. And I don't even remember making the sheets. I remember at that time I was taking a lot of sleeping pills and just trying to sleep through it and stuff. It felt like my heart had been sort of taken apart into different pieces, and I could feel that like in a physical sense, even though if I were to go to a doctor, certainly there'd be nobody to prove that otherwise, right? So in that process, I remember that my mind felt like it was starting to fall away. Excuse me. My mind started to feel like it was starting to deteriorate, like it was the different parts of my identity were going away. What I thought was real about myself didn't seem very real anymore. What I knew about myself, I was questioning basic things. Dark Night of the Soul will leave you in a space where you question very, very basic things about your life where you're not sure about the fundamentals of who you are, because it's taking everything that you have ever believed about yourself, that you have identified with, and challenging it and putting it up against the mirror to see if that identity is not only truly who you are, but if that identity is being fully authenticized within yourself, right? So what I mean by that is, let's take an example from my own life. What is the first basic identity that we might all have? The first basic identity I think that we all have is our body, okay? And maybe you can argue your mind, but your mind thinks it's the body because that's the very thing that's thinking that thought. So I'd say the mind is possibly first or secondary, but let's say the body, okay? What happens there is, as your body begins to change during a dark night of the soul, as it does, your sleep cycles change, your eating habits change, you feel like eating less. I lost 15 pounds in like a month and a half. I didn't feel like doing anything, so I wasn't getting a lot of exercise either, so I wasn't losing weight healthily. I was simply just falling away like a tree in the winter. I was just sort of dying off, right? And so I traveled into this sort of different kind of world where I didn't really recognize the different parts of myself. I didn't recognize my body. I didn't recognize the things that were happening within my body. And I began to become very unfamiliar. And I started to realize quite possibly that I had never really understood my body, that I had never really taken the time to appreciate it, be grateful for it, or value it, because it was deteriorating as well as the rest of my persona, all of it. And it was one of the first things to sort of go that I began to question, and I began to look at myself separate of my body. And that's sort of that's again what the purpose of this dark night of the soul. We'll get into that in a little bit, but that's sort of one of those things that began to happen, was a deconstruction of what I identified with. And because I had this perspective of my body and what I thought it meant for me, and what I could eat, and what I could do, and what I was capable of, and what my energy would be available to me. But all those things began to change. So I began to realize quite quickly that those things that I was identifying with my body were not true. I could no longer sustain the same foods. I could no longer drink soda, dairy, gluten. I still can't really do those things. I still do, obviously. I'm not a monk, but I don't do it in the same way that I do. It is not my current, it's not my current objective diet. And sometimes I dip back in to learn a lesson out of that, because that's also what happens in the dark night of the soul. It's an ongoing process. It doesn't happen during a day, okay? But we'll get into some of those at the end of this video, okay? Because I'm also going to be talking about how to get through the dark night of the soul and what the rest of that process looks like, okay? But for now, we'll just continue with this current narrative, and some of the other things that you begin to look at within yourself during the dark night of the soul is other basic things, which would be your, for instance, another thing that we love to identify with is our sexuality. So you have fundamental ideas about sexuality that that you of course believe about yourself, but how do you believe them? Okay, so as I began to question everything about my life, including my sexuality, was I really a straight white male, right? The answer is yes, okay. But at the time, I was questioning these things because the way that you identify, that often men identify with being straight, is that there's a current sort of trend that it means to be straight. Now, strictly speaking, what it means to be straight, heterosexual, is that you are attracted to and have romantic interest in the opposite sex. And that's usually where it kind of falls into. Again, it's a broad stroke definition of it. And socially, though, there are many different norms and things that we would consider to be gay, something like that, right? So you begin to question a lot of stuff like that, because your identity of being straight or a certain kind of identification is challenged because of how society views that thing. So if you're a straight male In society, it often means you have this kind of characteristic, you should be like this, you should do these things. So what happens subconsciously is that we take those things, we make them a part of ourselves, right? So as a kid, I was bullied for I was bullied in being called gay because I was sensitive, shy, intuitive, feminine energy, which I have a lot of, and artistic and creative, stuff like that, and sensitive. I don't know if I mentioned that already. And so that was an easy target, and I've seen that happen to many, many kids. Luckily for me, I was really only bullied for a year, and it was an obscure year of my life that I don't remember much of. And it was like a stop off in Oregon, and I lived there for a year. And that was a bad year, but I was 10 years old. I got over it, right? But it did stay with me for a bit, the scarring that I didn't remember until maybe a year ago. The process spiritual awakening will uncover a lot of stuff. So anyway, things like that, they get basically questioned. Other things that get basically questioned: your gender, what does it mean to be a man, right? What does it mean to be a woman, right? How are you supposed to act? What are you supposed to like? What are you supposed to do? Your job, okay, now we're going into the material. What kind of job are you supposed to be doing? I didn't feel very comfortable working at Pizza Hut. I know that I should have been grateful for just having a job in the first place, and yet the job was falling apart. It seemed to me that the very job that was at one point giving me lots of money, helping me, keeping me in the sports car that I had, and so stupid when I think about it, and keeping me in this persona was the thing that was also hurting me at the same time. So it gave my ego an identity to feel comfortable with, but it hurt who I was in every aspect. So I quit it. I quit the job. That was the last time, even today, still 2 years ago, almost three, that the last time that I had sort of stability, like a safe path, like I knew what was going on, right? Because it's very hard to get fired from a job like that, and you get a paycheck coming in every 2 weeks, and you have coworkers, and it's safe and it's easy to do, and etc. etc. Okay, so those kinds of jobs are something that I never really resonated with, and I would always quit. So the dark night of the soul really brought those to the surface, and so I haven't really gone ever back to those since. I've tried to, and still am trying to, manifest more of what is in alignment with myself. Of course, that means a lot of deep inner work, and that is, of course, the process and the purpose of the dark night of the soul. So now we can start getting into the second half of this video, and the second half of this video is about what this process means for you, okay, and how to get through it. So the dark night of the soul, really what's going on here, again, which I probably have covered a little bit already in the first 13 minutes, is that there's a deconstruction of self, okay? So everything that you've identified with is now falling away, and you're giving way to the new things in your life. But the reason that it's so powerful and painful is because it's your ego being deconstructed. It's your mind's reaction to a spiritual process, and that is almost always going to be hard. It's going to be a struggle because your mind likes to feel safe, it likes to feel comfortable, it likes to be in control. And during the dark night of the soul and during your awakening, you will learn at some point, maybe a year, maybe 6 months, maybe 2 years, maybe 3, at some point you will learn that you are not in control of this process. Something greater than yourself is. And I don't mean a god. I don't even strictly mean the universe, though certainly it's the same energy. What I do mean is your soul. I do mean the part of yourself that is beyond your mind and your body. It is the energy inside of you, okay, that really encompasses your true being, your true self, your true identity, your true persona, your true sense of awareness, okay? All of that coming from your soul. So it is like layers being peeled back on an onion to get to the center layer, okay? And as you're peeling back the layers of onions, you often cry, right, in real life, right? So think of it in the same way. Once you get to the center, you have the best part of yourself, okay? Now, I don't even like onions, so it's a weird analogy, but you can think of it in any way. You can think of it a Tootsie Roll Pop. You have to lick and lick and lick and lick until you get to the center. And that's essentially what's happening, is that you're getting back to the center of yourself, because we've built, either subconsciously or consciously, because of many different reasons, these walls and layers around our true self, as if you can imagine just these layers and layers and layers until it expands and expands and expands and expands. And what happens is that spiritual awakening happens at a point when one of these expanded walls that you've built comes tumbling down, and it tumbles down all the way to touch the center, even if it's just the tip, like a domino, touching the tip of the center so that you feel the full effects. But then what happens is you have to work your way into that still. Because as the walls begin to crumble down and it touches the sense of soul that sort of awakens you, that awakening isn't enough to bring you peace or wholeness or health or your dream life or your true sense of self, and to break it, because it's not enough. All that's happened is that you've gained the awareness, and now everything begins to crumble down because you have that awareness, and it's not something you can shut off. And the purpose of that awareness is to keep you going, is to keep you with the idea that, one, you're always safe, you're always protected, that you'll always understand yourself, and two, that you can't go back to your old life, because three, your new life is what is really meant for you. It's actually what you want. It's what you've always wanted. But the thing is that you've been the only thing that's been getting in your way. Yes, there's obstacles in life. There's some things you can't control. There's people that are going to come into your life that might hinder your process, but you can't control those. And in a way, that still could be argued to be something that you orchestrated from a divine perspective, a challenge to be overcome, possibly, if you have that perspective and it aligns with your truth. So the darkening of the soul is that deconstruction, okay? And it happens over a long period of time, okay? So the stages that it kind of goes through, the dark night of the soul, is that it starts with the initial sort of, let's say, like, everything's starting to not really resonate, okay? So your friends, your job, your coworkers, your family, maybe some of your likes and dislikes, maybe where you live, your life, essentially, you start to take a look at, and you're like, that doesn't seem too great. That's the first stage, okay? The second stage is when those things start to become a little bit heavier. And in that sort of second stage, you begin to feel much more depressed, much less enthusiastic towards things, much more disillusioned, and things start crumbling away. And it's when you start taking action against those things, and you just like kind of allow them to be torn away, or you yourself participate in them. And then what happens in the third stage is this deeper stage. And this is usually the stage that lasts the longest, it's the heaviest, and it's almost always the one that people get stuck in. And that is the true deepest part of the dark night of the soul, which is that disillusioned, depressed phase where you just truly don't want to do anything, which is, again, like I was when I was sleeping on a mattress, taking 2 or 3 sleeping pills a day just to sleep the whole day. I would sleep like, I'd wake up at 10. I wouldn't even go into my job sometimes. I would just call off, something unusual for me, and I would wake up at 10 and take another sleeping pill, and then go back to sleep, and maybe wake up at like 4, and then maybe get like bite into something, and then go back to sleep, and so on. And that lasted for, the worst part of that lasted for about 3 weeks, maybe a month. And the residual part of that greater depression lasts for about for me, it lasted about, definitely, pretty much all of, from like March to winter 2018. It really lasted that almost that whole year, April or May, really. But for about 10 months or so, maybe 9, I was in that energy of depression. And then you get into the fourth stage, and the fourth stage is a part of the dark night where you start to see some hope. And this is where the current stage that I'm in personally, is that I see hope, I see faith, I have some faith again, I have some energy, I have some awareness, I have some manifestations, I am working on manifestations, I'm creating a life for myself, I'm trying to pull from different areas, I have new interests, I have new likes, I haven't met my soul tribe, but I have gotten rid of influences that have been kept me into the dark, shifted some things around, worked on myself a little bit, realized that I don't need to work on myself to enjoy myself, to enjoy my company, trying to spend some time alone. Right now, I'm currently going through a process in which I'm learning how to be still and relax and not stress over the future, and to really let go of that control, so that I can allow my manifestation to come into me, because one of my biggest blocks in life is receiving. I don't know how to receive. I'm not very good at it. I'm not very good at receiving love. I'm not very good at receiving support, help, emotions. I'm not very good at accepting gifts. I'm just not very good at it. I have no problem giving, but I have a hard time receiving and feeling the effects of the reception of that receiving gift, okay? And that is a block. And in order to get to that last stage, which is what I'm transitioning into, which I know intuitively is around the corner, probably this month, is the fifth and final stage of the dark night of the soul, which is illumination, enlightenment, awakening, the true awareness, back to self, back to sense, back to going, whew, I'm okay, I'm at peace. I'm at peace with myself. That is essentially enlightenment, guys. Don't expect enlightenment to be something where you have no problems or that life just stops being life. That's not how it goes. Enlightenment is a sense of peace within yourself, knowing who you are without the back and forth emotional drama, without the lack of conviction, with the whole issues, with all this nonsensical stuff where you're not even really sure of yourself. You first need to be sure of yourself so you get to this awakening, okay? And that's the fifth stage. Some enlightenment, some type of deeper awareness of yourself, some type of enlightenment, okay? It doesn't have to be a traditional enlightenment like Buddha, okay? These are all labels, but the fifth and final stage is essentially a completion of something, a wholeness, okay? So what happens then if you want to get through the dark night of the soul is I'm going to give you guys a couple tips, okay? We'll say three because I don't want these videos to be too long because I know people are like, why the fuck would I watch 20-something minute video when they can go watch cat videos for 30 seconds? So I understand. So let's take 3 or 4 tips, and I'll give you those, and then we'll sign off. All right. So first tip or step or stip, if you don't know how to speak English like me, is to give yourself a break. Okay. So if you really want to get through the dark night of the soul within the most quickest, I guess, efficient way possible, would be to stop thinking, like stop judging the process, like just let it happen. It will go so much quicker. I resisted and resisted and resisted and didn't want to change and didn't want to do this and didn't want to go through this avenue and didn't want to take the time to listen to myself, and it just prolonged the process. Okay, this is like a 2.5, almost 3-year journey for me. Okay, I started in April 2018. It is December 2020, so we're almost at 3 years, about 4 months left, right? 4.5, almost 5. So that process for me, I resisted a lot, okay? And so my first advice tip to you would be to just stop judging it, let go, like allow yourself to be in it, feel it, do it, own that shit. Know that this is what you're going through and it's fine. Don't resist it because you'll end up having a much longer and harder process, okay? I can't stress that enough. If you just let it happen and don't think about it and don't judge it and just feel that shit, feel it, I promise you it'll go so much smoother, okay? And I'm talking about a dark night of the soul here, guys. I'm not a medical professional. I don't know anything about mental disorders or anything like that. If that's the case, that's a whole different topic, okay? But I'm talking about strictly a spiritual type of depression and a dark night of the soul. And that is something you have to feel, okay? So my first tip is to feel it, don't judge it, right? Don't think about it, just allow, all right? Let go. My second tip would be for you guys to go out and exist in life. If you want awareness of things to come into your life, then you're going to need to experience life, because that's how you know that the information you're getting is something of a higher caliber. Okay, so what I mean by that is you can't get all the answers that you need in your room on a phone. If you're gonna go have this spiritual, esoteric, existential sort of depression and crisis, go outside. Just go outside, go travel, do something. Literally get the hell out of your head. Go do. If it's hard to feel everything, if it's hard to not judge the process, then go do something that occupies your mind, allows you to be clean. Okay? To me, that's people watching. Go out, sit on a bench, look at life. Okay? And I know it's winter time right now. You might not be able to do that. And also we're during COVID times, but this is a great opportunity to expand yourself. Go for a walk without music or headphones. Go look at some animals in the park. Go watch some birds. Go feed some birds. Go go down to some lake, go into nature, go into the woods, go get lost. Like, seriously, go get lost in life, because you will find inspiration and divine intervention, whatever that means to you, in the most random possible ways, but only through experiencing life will you get it, not from hiding in your room. So my second tip to you is to go out, travel, experience life, learn something. The only reason, there's two reasons why I haven't killed myself, because at some point in my life I was definitely depressed enough to do so. There's probably a third reason, and it's probably that I've killed myself in a past life already, but that's something that I obviously can't prove, and this is not what this video is about. But the first two reasons I know that I have not killed myself personally as Kieran Hunter is because, one, I did drugs when I was in my early 20s, and that escapism, though certainly not great, is the reason I had not killed myself. Okay, now other people, they take drugs and they actually end up definitely killing themselves. For me, drugs actually, in a way, saved my life. Okay. Second thing is because, and more important than the drugs, I went out and experienced life. I decided to quit my job, quit my life, and travel and go and exist and experience. Yes, it was hard. Yes, I was broke. Yes, I was in pain. Yes, I had heartbreak. I was dealing with things that sucked, and I was emotional and sensitive and going through too much bullshit. I didn't feel good about myself at all in any way, but I did go and do something. I did experience life. I did travel. I did drive across the country. I did something stupid. I drove across the United States from California to New York. I drove across and I had no idea what I was doing. It's fucking dumb. But I wanted to do it. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to go do it. And I did. And my car got repoed because of it. But it was okay, because the joke's on them, because I crashed it on the way back a couple times. I was like, fuck it, if it's gonna get taken, I'll smash it into a tree. Not on purpose, I just mean that I was less careful. So anyway, and then I drove back through the south. So I went north, south, and I traveled to Ireland, Canada a couple times, and all over California, just experiencing things. It's one of the reasons I didn't kill myself, and it's one of the reasons that I grew. Okay, so that is the third tip. Fourth tip would be, and this is a little bit more practical, logical. Do something that essentially journals the process. Now, this could be literal journaling, or it could be finding a support group. It could be getting help from people. It could be going online, talking to people. If you need a therapist that will understand, then hopefully you can find one. Maybe find a spiritual group near you. Again, harder to do now, but in general, keep that in mind. You can do it online, things like that. Maybe books. Again, journaling your process, if that helps. But find a way to catalog your process of the dark night of the soul, this journey that you're going through, because you'll look back on it and you'll be able to reference things, and it will make it feel like you're going through something that's real. It'll justify your existence, okay? And that's going to help you, all right? And the fifth and final tip I would say to you guys is to, and this is harder to do, but take care of your physical body. For as long as your dark night of the soul lasts, you should try as hard as you can to take care of your physical body, your physical vessel. It was really hard for me to do. It still is, honestly. Sometimes I forget, and I'm not the most highest source on this type of information. However, I can tell you guys that it is pertinent, and I regret that I didn't do it more, because if you take care of your body, you allow yourself to have the energy to get through it, okay? There's no point in going through the dark night of the soul just stuffing yourself up with shit food that isn't good for you. Take care of your physical body. There will come a time when you will vibrate so high that you'll have no problem eating chips or fast food or anything. Now, you won't want to all the time, but when you do, it'll go through your body, you'll process it, it'll be energetically downloaded, it'll be great, okay? You'll be fine. You'll be able to do that. But in the meantime, take care of yourself, okay? Seriously. And this obviously applies to your emotional body as well, but physical body is going to allow you to actually have the energy to get through it, okay? So those are just some tips. Longer video, but I hope that it does resonate, guys. This has just been based upon my experience. There's tons of articles, tons of other videos on YouTube that I'm sure possibly even explain it better, and maybe even from a different kind of experience. But that is largely my experience, what I've experienced, what got me through it, why I'm still here today, why I haven't killed myself in any different direction in life, and why I managed to still have some hope and faith for things getting better, and why I'm still able to do what I do without giving up. Okay, so I thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday. Take it easy, guys. See you later. Bye bye.